Good morning, Digit fam. Adam Dowd here, and I promise this will be the last time I mention Avengers Endgame for a while, because it's tonight and I'm barely capable of coherent thought at this point. But I also understand that my near constant references this week, and frankly the past 3 months, may have been a little much. We're good now. Also, as a programming note, I owe you an apology. I was listening to that 5G episode I did last Friday, and it wasn't my best work. I appreciate you sticking with me, boo. Moving on, it is April 26, 2019, and this is your Avengers Endgame edition of the Digit Daily. Okay, that was the last one. Seriously. Probably. On the one hand, Samsung is handling this Galaxy Fold issue well. It's stopping everything and pulling back and re-examining the whole shebang without having shipped $2,000 paperweights to eager masses of adoring fans, which is the right thing to do and good for Samsung. But let's talk about iFixit. Over the last few days, iFixit posted 2 pieces. First, a guess as to what happened with all this Fold business in the first place, and we actually talked about that a couple days ago in the roundup. Then it went hands-on with an actual device, and iFixit did its full iFixit teardown, which, in the words of iFixit, pretty much bore out what it wrote the day before. Now, you might want to go read those pieces because they were quite informative, but when you visit those pages now, all you get are an announcement from iFixit saying, "We didn't get a phone, so we got one from someone else. Samsung told that someone else to shut that down. We like that someone else, so we did." So basically, iFixit didn't get a device, but reached out to a friend and got a device through them. Samsung didn't like what they had to say, so it got to swing its big old around and got iFixit to remove the post. And iFixit basically said, "We don't have to take this down, but we like our friend, so we're going to do it for them. Samsung can go itself." Okay, so I added that last part, but you got to admit, it kind of reads that way. And I respect that. Because here's the thing. There's a lot that we don't know here. Last night on the Android Authority podcast, Joe Hindi pointed out that the hinge alone on the Galaxy Fold took 8 years to develop. So maybe Samsung just doesn't want to give its competitors a leg up. The very act of iFixit getting a device that isn't available for public purchase from someone other than Samsung may very well be a criminal act. And if that's the case, then we and iFixit should be grateful that all that was asked of them was to take the article down, although it should be mentioned that the post now says that they were under no legal obligation to take it down. Well, whatever. I get that, and there's a lot here that we don't know. But what I do know is that I'm sure iFixit appreciates the extra traffic it's getting these days. Also, what I can tell you from an optics standpoint is this isn't a good look for Samsung. I mean, all Samsung had to do was fix the phone and put it back out there, and this all goes away. Samsung recently made a phone that sets airplanes on fire, but still, the Note 9 was one of the best phones of 2018. This iFixit thing just smacks of pettiness that frankly Samsung should be above. Grow up, Samsung. And yes, this is the guy who has been bouncing up and down in his chair for the last 3 months over a comic book movie telling you to grow up. I think I'm getting a little emotional here, so let's just wrap it up with the words of Bogdan Petrovin at Android Authority, who says, quote, "I don't blame Samsung for throwing their weight around. I blame them for not anticipating that this was going to happen." Fine words, Bogdan. Better than I could put it. But for now, it's time for the roundup! So here's the thing about USB Type-C. It's really great because it's reversible, but that's like almost the only thing that's great about it. Here's a PSA for you listeners, and if you're like me, it's far, far, far too late. Whatever cable came with your phone or tablet, label it, and don't ever confuse them, because the problem with the Universal Serial Bus Type-C is that OEMs forgot to make it universal. There are vast differences in things like data transmission and power transmission if you mix up your cables, so don't do it. And USB folks, be better, will ya? Last week, Apple and Qualcomm settled their lawsuits and became friends again, and literally that afternoon, Intel announced it wasn't going to make 5G modems anymore. Yesterday, Intel CEO confirmed that the settlement was the reason. Doi. Facebook was hit with a hat trick of security investigations in one day yesterday. First came the Irish Data Protection Authority investigating a data breach that left hundreds of millions of passwords from Facebook and Instagram stored on servers in plain text. Next came the Canadians, and the Office of Privacy Commissioner Data, who's taking Facebook to federal court to correct its serious contraventions of Canadian privacy law, And who knew that contraventions was an actual word, And finally, straight out of Brooklyn, New York State Attorney Letitia James is looking into the unauthorized collection of 1.5 million email addresses, and let's all go have some fucking pizza! Most of that story was quoted from TechCrunch. The accents were mine, and I'm sorry. Amazon Prime in the US is aiming to go from 2-day shipping down to 1-day shipping by investing over $800 million in its US infrastructure. This move is a counter to shopping giants like Target and Walmart who offer the same 2-day shipping. So Amazon's like, oh yeah, hold my beer. And I'm sure this will not affect my Amazon addiction in the slightest, except that it totally will. But you want to know how Amazon is doing all that? By automating the firing of workers who fall below their quota. And when I say automating, I don't mean like a manager is watching to see its performance and its policy to call them into the office to cut a I mean automatically, like AI-powered firing, like a computer watches you work and cans you if you slack off. Oh, but managers can override the process, which doesn't make this better, Amazon. Walmart opened its first AI-powered store in New York, which uses cameras and an on-site data center to track objects on shelves and determine what products need replacing or restocking. This is not an Amazon Go store. There are still employees here, and you still check out normally. Instead, this AI is focused on inventory and helping associates replace items that need replacing as fast as possible so that they know what to bring with them as they walk the store. Which is nice and all, but it seems like a major investment to do what college kids could just as easily do, but I guess Walmart has to Walmart. And finally, and it's important to understand that these are not my words. They are the words of Motherboard. In fact, I'm going to just read you word for word the headline and the subheadline and let you click on through in the show notes for an interesting read about combating hate speech on the internet. Here's the headline and the subheadline. Not my words. Quote, why won't Twitter treat white supremacy like ISIS? Because it would mean banning some Republican politicians too. A Twitter employee who works on machine learning believes that a proactive, algorithmic solution to white supremacy would also catch Republican politicians. Well then. And I just want to mention here that in general, but today in particular, the roundup on the newsletter is wall-to-wall packed with great stuff, and I'm usually only able to cover half of it. So definitely make sure to hit up digit.com for today's edition of the newsletter, brilliantly put together by Tristan Rayner. And while you're there, subscribe so you don't miss out on future editions. But as for me, that is going to do it for today's Digit Daily. If you like what you heard, subscribe, leave a review, and don't forget to tell your friends about digitdailypod.com. Once again, I'm Adam Dowd, Dead Technology on Twitter, and we'll talk again on Monday.